Have you ever noticed that the more seriously you try to understand life, the harder it becomes to belong to it? The deeper your questions go, the quieter the room becomes, not because you are better than others and not because people are stupid, but because deep thinking quietly disrupts something fragile. How people see themselves. This channel is called Aporiax because these are the thoughts that usually appear when the distractions stop working. There is a strange pattern that follows people who think deeply. They are rarely attacked openly. Instead, they are softened out of the room, ignored, spoken over, or slowly excluded. Not because their ideas are always correct, but because their presence changes the emotional balance of a conversation. History does not prove that society hates intelligence. That would be too simple, but it does show a repeating tension between comfort and questioning. Socrates did not threaten people with knowledge. He threatened them with uncertainty. And uncertainty feels dangerous to a mind that survives by feeling stable. But why does this happen? Why does depth create social friction, even when no one is trying to dominate a conversation? The answer does not begin in philosophy. It begins in psychology. Think about this: when you stand next to someone who is physically strong, you may feel impressed or inspired. When you meet someone who is wealthy, you may feel curious or even envious, but you rarely feel personally destabilized. Now compare that to what happens when you meet someone who quietly questions your assumptions, someone who notices contradictions, someone who does not rush to agreement, someone who listens more than they speak. Something subtle shifts inside the room, not because they are judging you, but because your mind begins to compare itself in psychology. This is explained through social comparison and ego threat mechanisms. A deep thinker does not only introduce new ideas, they introduce a silent mirror, and that mirror does not show your success. It shows the edges of your understanding. People are not offended by intelligence. They are unsettled by what intelligence exposes. And this matters because most of us build our identity on what we believe, what we know, and what we feel certain about. Your opinions are not just thoughts. They are emotional anchors. So when someone calmly questions something you have never questioned, it does not feel like a conversation. It feels like instability. This is why intelligence feels different from strength, beauty, or status. Those qualities exist outside the mind, but thinking strikes the center of identity. This is also why deep thinkers are often misunderstood. Their silence is mistaken for judgment. Their nuance is mistaken for indecision. Their hesitation is mistaken for weakness. In reality, their mind is simply operating at a slower and more careful resolution. Now pause for a moment. Have you ever tried to introduce a complex idea in a casual conversation and felt the mood subtly collapse? Have you ever noticed how quickly people redirect when a discussion becomes reflective or uncomfortable? This is not coincidence. It is a defensive shift. When people feel that their self-image might be challenged, their attention turns away before the challenge becomes conscious. Curiosity shuts down before discomfort has time to form language. And here is an uncomfortable truth: depth without empathy still repels people. Many intelligent people lose connection, not because society is shallow, but because they forget that insight alone does not create safety in a conversation. Humans do not open intellectually until they feel emotionally unthreatened. This is a crucial distinction because isolation is not always imposed. Sometimes it is quietly reinforced. Yet even when deep thinkers communicate gently, they still face another barrier: group psychology. In one-on-one conversations, people are more willing to explore uncertainty. But in groups, something else becomes dominant status. When other people are watching, your ideas are no longer just ideas. They become signals, signals of intelligence, signals of competence, signals of hierarchy. In group settings, the brain becomes less interested in truth and more interested in social position. Research on social threat consistently shows that when people feel evaluated or compared, their emotional threat systems become more active, not because someone is attacking them, but because the social environment has become competitive. In simple terms, your intelligence becomes visible only when other people can see it. This is why deep conversations often survive in private but collapse in public, not because people suddenly become shallow, but because their social brain has taken over their thinking brain. And this is where one of the most misunderstood biases appears: the Dunning-Kruger effect. It is not simply about ignorance, it is about confidence. People with limited understanding often feel stable because they do not yet see what they are missing. People with deeper understanding often hesitate because they see complexity in social environments. Confidence communicates safety, clarity communicates control, nuance communicates uncertainty, and uncertainty is unattractive in groups. This is why simple narratives spread more easily than thoughtful ones. Not because people are incapable of depth, but because clarity is easier to rally around than complexity. Another force works quietly beneath this status quo bias. The human brain prefers familiar explanations over disruptive insight, not because new ideas are wrong, but because change requires cognitive effort and emotional adjustment. And then there is the backfire effect when people are confronted with information that directly contradicts what they already believe. Their first response is rarely curiosity. It is protection. They do not update their beliefs. They defend them, not because they are irrational, but because belief systems carry emotional weight. Your beliefs help stabilize your identity. Losing them feels like losing part of yourself. Now place all of this inside the modern digital environment. Social platforms do not reward thinking. They reward reaction algorithms, prioritize engagement. Not understanding emotion travels faster than reflection. Certainty travels faster than nuance. Outrage travels faster than explanation. Deep ideas require context, and context does not fit into short attention loops. This does not mean thoughtful people are obsolete. It means the environment favors emotional simplicity over intellectual depth, and this creates a quiet selection pressure. Those who compress reality into confident statements rise faster. Those who speak carefully are easier to ignore. So, what does all of this mean for someone who genuinely wants to understand life? It means that rejection is not purely social. It is cognitive, emotional, and structural, built into how human brains evolved to survive inside groups. For most of human history, being accepted by the group mattered more than being accurate. Isolation meant vulnerability, and vulnerability meant danger. So our nervous systems still prioritize belonging over understanding. When someone disrupts the shared story, the brain reacts as if stability itself is under threat. This is not evil, it is biological inheritance, but understanding this changes how you relate to your own isolation, because depth does not automatically create distance. Misalignment creates distance, and misalignment becomes painful when you try to build intimacy inside environments that reward performance more than presence. This is where the philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer enters the conversation, not as a hero and not as a role model, but as a warning. Schopenhauer believed that most human behavior is driven by what he called the will, a restless force that pushes us toward pleasure, status security, and distraction. According to him, most people are not searching for truth. They are searching for relief. Relief from boredom, relief from discomfort, relief from uncertainty. Highly reflective minds operate differently. Not because they are morally superior, but because their attention turns inward toward the structure of experience itself. They do not simply ask, "How do I feel?" They ask, "Why do I feel? And what is producing this desire? What is shaping this fear? What is controlling this attention?" This shift in awareness creates distance not from people, but from the games that keep social life moving. Schopenhauer believed that the more clearly a person sees how much of human behavior is driven by illusion comparison and craving, the harder it becomes to participate without feeling internally divided. Small talk becomes visible as performance status becomes visible, as insecurity competition becomes visible as anxiety. This does not make someone better, it makes them less entertained by the same illusions. And that is where the loneliness begins. Not because others are shallow, but because attention has changed. When your mind becomes sensitive to subtle emotional patterns, to manipulation, to unconscious motives, many ordinary interactions feel strangely empty, not meaningless, just incomplete. Schopenhauer argued that deeper awareness often increases sensitivity to suffering. You notice the pressure people carry, the insecurity beneath confidence, the fear beneath ambition, and once you begin to see this, it becomes harder to enjoy surface victories without noticing their emotional cost. He famously suggested that a high degree of intellect tends to make a person more solitary, not because solitude is superior, but because stimulation changes. What once satisfied no longer holds attention. However, this is where many modern interpretations go wrong. Schopenhauer did not romanticize isolation. He treated it as a psychological consequence, not as an identity. Loneliness is not proof of insight, it is only evidence of difference. And difference still requires adaptation. So, what can a deeply reflective person actually do, not to escape society, but to remain emotionally healthy inside it? First, learn to protect connection without betraying depth. You do not need to deliver your deepest thoughts in every room you enter. Discernment is not dishonesty, it is emotional intelligence. Not everyone is in the same psychological place at the same time. Second, seek depth where depth is welcomed. Books, long-form conversations, creative collaboration, quiet intellectual communities, not for status but for nervous system compatibility. You do not need a large audience to feel understood. You need one honest mirror. Third, embrace solitude as a tool, not as a shield. Solitude can sharpen perception, but isolation dulls emotional flexibility. There is a difference. Reflection without relational grounding slowly becomes rigidity. Fourth, learn how to translate, not simplify your thinking, but humanize it. Ideas land through emotion before they land through logic. People listen when they feel seen, not when they feel corrected. And finally, understand this clearly. Your mind is not a weapon, and it is not a badge. It is an instrument. How you use it shapes whether it becomes a bridge or a wall. The deeper you go into understanding, the more responsibility you carry for how that understanding touches others. Mind After Dark is not about superiority, it is about awareness. And awareness always comes with a cost, but it also offers something rare, a quieter relationship with reality, and slower, more deliberate way of living inside it, not to escape the world, but to see it without needing it to perform for you.